Hello there and welcome to Tom's Warhammer Minis. Now today I have an ultra unique tutorial for you using the Tau Commander model. Now recently Games Workshop revealed the fantastic new models, the Twin Lance, consisting of the characters Sunsear and Scatterflare. And not only are they beautiful models, the brief and just real basic bit of lore that they gave us just really resonated with me. They became enraged and anguished through the shared trauma when their bondmate Commander Darkstar was slain by a Genestealer Patriarch. Other than that bit of lore, we know little else about Darkstar herself. But the beauty of this hobby is that it's up to our interpretation and we have the freedom to do what we want. So, I've used the Tau Commander model, and in this in-depth and exclusive tutorial, I'll be showcasing it for the first time on YouTube two special things. First of all, how to paint the new colour scheme, along with the methodology and insights on how to tackle this scheme with the power of contrast paints. But I'll also go one step further that no other YouTuber can currently do. Now, if I was to say to you, would you believe that this model was painted in a day? You may not. If I was to say it's completely heavy metal style, which you can see by the images it is, and then say look closely at the highlights, and then listen very carefully when I say I've not painted a single edge highlight on this model. This is going to be a true game changer when it comes to painting Tau. After all, it's full battle armour. Hundreds upon hundreds of edge highlights, and I'm going to show you how you can avoid every single one and still have the heavy metal finish in the most unique way possible, and the model looks fantastic. So grab your paints, grab your brushes, let's begin. We're going to start our Tau Commander in an unknown but very brand new awesome looking set that we've seen online. So for Commander Darkstar, there's a few things to point out. The basing you see here is just green stuff. Obviously you base your models the way you want to. The model is primed in white skull, but I really want to kind of talk about the methodology behind what we're going to do today. If you've seen my other tutorials, you know exactly what I'm on about here. When we're painting up with contrast paints, obviously there's a lot of armor panels here. What I'm going to do is there'll be no battle ready. Essentially we're going to be painting straight to parade level ready by doing a very awesome trick. We're going to build up underlayers. We're then going to paint over those underlayers and treat them as edge highlights that are already in place. So there'll be no edge highlighting whatsoever, but the highlights will all be in place. You'll understand as we go along, but essentially what we'll be doing is we'll be taking one colour. So for instance, when I do the black at the back here, we'll be focusing solely on that, getting about 100% done, then moving on to the next colour, then the next colour, and the whole model's just complete. Nice and simple. Trust the process, watch how I do it, follow along, and it'll all make sense. And so our first port of call is going to be all of the black armour. Now think in terms of a Space Marine, they have that soft black under armour. Obviously in the Tau they don't have soft armour, seals, but they do have that black armour. A lot of it you'll find at the back like you can see. So take a look, let me do a little 360 of the model just to give you an idea of the different things that we're looking for. Essentially between the arms, that kind of stuff. You've got these little bits of the weapons, arms, that kind of stuff. I really refer to the box art as well as the stock images on the actual reveal show of the two new models. It will give you a good idea of where the black armour should be. So take your time, you've obviously got the neck as well. Now let's talk colours. To begin with, we're going to take Space Wolves Grey. Take 4 parts of this to roughly 1 part of Lamy Medium. The Lamy Medium in this sense is not going to thin the colour down, it's just going to help the flow. Don't worry too much if it slightly pulls and darkens in certain areas. We want to create the edge highlight colour. Wait for it to completely dry. Shade it with Time and Blue. Essentially what we've done here is we've created Rust Grey as if it was a contrast paint. This is going to be the edge highlight colour. In the next step we're going to paint black. We're going to avoid all the edges, and it just means the black armour is 100% done, 100% highlighted. And this is going to be the highlight colour, as you can see. So take your time, be very careful. Obviously we don't want to catch any of the other bits of armour. You can just about get away with this one because we're going to be doing that turquoise kind of tone. But for our cream colour we need to be very careful. But if you do catch it by accident, white sky is what you need to fix it. Next up we're going to finish off that black armour. So let's talk the mix first because that's the important part. You're going to take 4 parts of Black Templar into something like the Citadel Skull palette. And you want to mix 1 part of Lamy Medium. The Lamy Medium in this case is not thinning the paint down. We're still keeping the same tone and strength of the Black Templar. This is just going to give you control and help to flow the paint easily when you apply it to the model. you're going to need a small airbrush for this one. So, like I've mentioned before, and if you've seen my other tutorials, you know exactly what we're doing here. As you can see, it's quite bright, it's quite bold, it's quite vivid. We're going to paint on the surfaces, up to the edge, where the edge highlight would be. The edge highlight in this case is the previous colour that we created, that Space Wolves Grey and then the Tyrant Blue. You paint up to the edge, you do not paint on the edge. Essentially, leaving that previous colour as the edge highlight. It takes time, it takes precision. If you do catch the edge, just quickly wash the brush because it's a contrast paint. With a damp brush, not a completely wet one, just clear the paint off. Nice and simple, like you do on the other surfaces. Take your time, get it done, and you'll have the most ultra crisp highlights imaginable because you control how thin the highlight becomes. Rather than doing all those chunky edge highlights, which can be an absolute pain in the bum, especially on a model this sort of complex with all these armor panels, you get power and control. And that really is a game changer. Took about an hour and a half, me just being very neat, very precise, taking my time, make sure you've got good lighting on, put an audio drama on because it's just really going to benefit just the sort of therapeutic nature of this painting. But is it quicker? For me it would be than doing all these edge highlights, and it's a lot less stressful too. So take your time, this is what you should have. Our next bit's going to have a lot of explanation, so bear with me. First of all, we're going to create the underlayer, that highlight colour for our turquoise. We're going to shade it down in the next step, but this is the first bit we need to do. So let's talk theory of why I've put it here. Something to figure out for your own commander if you're following this colour scheme. Sunsear and Scatterflare, they mirror each other in opposite ways. One has a turquoise on the left, the other on the right. They literally are mirror opposites. So it made sense for the Commander Darkstar that her colour scheme, I just felt it was right. It should be all central, and then the left and the right, all these armor panels will be that cream colour that we see. So with that kind of theory out the way, let's talk the colour mix. We're going to take into a palette, and we're going to need a nice amount. 1 part of Achillean green, ratio-wise, to 1 part of Croxical scales. Now think of this as very similar colours that mix together, that just take the best of both to create that. That's why I'm applying that. But into that 1-to-1 mix, we're adding 1 part of Lahmian medium. This is going to thin it down quite heavily, but give us a lot of control. We need control. There's lots of flat areas. Now we're going to apply it over all these areas, like you see. Obviously being very careful, approaching the black, approaching the white areas that we've yet to paint. But we do have a little leeway. The Lahmian medium is going to help with drying lines, but there are going to be areas where it pulls. So I'm going to point out here, where it's slightly pulled there. It doesn't have to be perfect at this stage. This kind of pulling here is absolutely acceptable because when we add the overlayer, that sort of base coat color in the next step, it's not going to, you're not even going to notice it. This is our highlight color that we're getting in place. So don't worry about it being perfect. Just get it as good as you can. Always start from the top, work your way down, because if you start here, for instance, and work up, gravity is just going to pull the paint down, and then it is going to pull heavily. So that's one thing to note. The other thing you're going to need to absolutely do is make sure that all these recesses in the actual natural part of the armor, you get the paint in. We want that dark effect. It's going to save a lot of time later, because obviously we're going to shade it next. But when I do the sort of final color to get it, you know, parade level ready, we can save time by not having to do recess shading. So make sure you get that in there. So top tips, top to bottom, take your time. Don't worry too much about drying lines. Don't worry too much about little bits of pooling. As long as you kind of get it to this consistency, you're absolutely safe and fine. Take your time, let it dry. We'll move on to the next stage. Next up, we're going to shade that armor down a little bit more. We're going to take Coelia green shade. We're going to mix this in a 1-to-1 ratio with Lahmian medium. So it's nice and thin. And once again, we're applying it over all those turquoise colors. Obviously starting from the top, working your way down to the bottom. Now I had a little bit of pooling here, so that's not really a point to say that it's going to pool there specifically. It's more just to let you know that you can actually have that pooling. I've wiped it off, so it's a bit messy in painting standards, and that's okay, because this is now our highlight color. We're going to paint the next paint over all those flat armor panels, exactly like we did with the Black Templar, up to the edge. So things like this, where it's got that kind of mistake, where it doesn't look quite perfect, it works in our favor. As long as our edge highlights are all perfect, which in this case they are, because contrast paints, shade paints, they pull away from the edge. We've got it all ready to go. So just let it fully dry. Obviously don't let it pull excessively, just be careful when you're approaching these white details, we don't want to spoil them. But get that done, let it dry, we'll move on to the next stage where we'll finish off that turquoise armour once and for all, and it'll be 0 edge highlights to do at the end. And next up we're getting that colour almost completely done, just to match Sunsear and Scatterflare's colour scheme to that turquoise. Now, talking of turquoise, the appropriate colour that we're using here is Pterodon turquoise. I have created a slight mix here. It's 4 parts of Pterodon turquoise to 1 part of Lamy medium. The Lamy medium in this case, we're not thinning down the colour, we're helping with the flow, helping with the concentration, like moving it around, and it just keeps the mixture a little bit fresher for longer, because obviously there's a lot to do here. Now, where it differs from before, we don't need to work from top to bottom. Pick a panel, that's all you need to do. Pick a panel, work on it, go to the next one until you've got completely done all over. It's going to take a lot of time, but it's worth the effort. As you can see, every edge highlight is in place. There is nothing more you need to do. Now I am going to add one more shade. I want to just shift it towards the blue side a little bit more, so I'll be using Tyrant Blue, but I'll show you that in the next step. Just give you a little 360 of what it looks like. With Pterodon turquoise, I do find it's glossy. It's just one of those things. It could be just my paint, but it's just something I've experienced with multiple pots of Pterodon turquoise. The shade that I'm going to use in the next step will get rid of that gloss shine. If you don't want to shade it down, nice and simple, use a matte varnish. That's all you'd need to do. So take your time, get that done, and we'll move on to the next step. And next up, this is entirely optional if you're happy with what the previous stage was, but I just wanted to shift it to slightly more of a blue tone. It's very subtle, and the shade is my enhancer that I really love and enjoy, Tyrant Blue. Now I've taken 4 parts of this and 1 part of Lamy Medium. The Lamy Medium, again, it's just to help with the flow. We're covering lots of large areas. I don't want the Tyrant Blue thinned down though. As you see, it's still virtually the same as it was before. It just has a slightly bluer tint, and it just really enhances the overall turquoise look, matching it far more to the box art. And the other beauty of it is, because it's shaken well, because it's a shade with the Lamy Medium and stuff, it's got rid of that glossy varnish kind of style that the Pterodon turquoise had, and it's got a very nice matte finish now. So with that, the actual turquoise armour is fully complete. There's no need to do any more of it. We can move on to our bone coloured armour. Next up, we're going to paint all of that cream coloured armour. Now at this stage, it looks a bit off. In fairness, there's no recess shading yet. We're going to do that in the next stage. And compared to the actual Twin Lance, the actual Tau Commander model has a lot more thinner armour panels rather than these large sections that you see on the Twin Lance characters, which are just mostly cream coloured. So there's a lot more white highlights in place. So the colour is a bit odd. There is no contrast paint that's actually going to match this. You could try Skeleton Horde, but it's a bit too bone coloured and brown, whereas we actually want cream. The colour is going to be Wraithbone. But applying Wraithbone is a bit tricky. As a base paint, it is extremely thick. It can be quite problematic. We don't want sort of glarish lumps everywhere. We don't want brush strokes. So we are going to turn it into a contrast paint. So in a palette, we're going to take roughly 1 part of Wraithbone. And this time, probably a first for the actual channel, is we're going to use contrast medium, essentially turning it into a contrast paint. We're going to create a rough 1-to-1 mix with this, essentially keeping the consistency of the colour of Wraithbone, but turning it into a much more controllable liquid, and treating it like a contrast paint in the sense of the way we've done our turquoise armour and the black armour. We're painting it on the panel surfaces up to the edge, not including the edge. And our highlight colour is just a plain basic white scar. That's exactly what you see on the box art for the new Twin Lance models, really recreating that scheme. We are going to do the recess shading next. It's going to all sort of tie together, but that's what we're looking for at the moment. So take your time, get that done. What you'll notice is the difference being a base paint, it will dry up, it will become gloopy, a lot more quicker than a contrast paint would in a palette. So just every so often, top up the contrast medium. Literally, when I say top up, get a brush full, just apply it to the mix. It just keeps it nice and fresh and moist, and then just apply it on each surface panel, and this is what you'll get. Nice and simple, but it's another effective way of contrast painting. Next up, we're doing all of that recessed shading with our Wraithbone style armour. The colour I'm using here is Seraphim Sepia, and I have thinned this down in a 1-to-1 mix with Lamia Medium. Essentially, I want more control, and I don't want it too stark with that colour, because it is quite strong when you've got all this light undertone. Even though it's not a real overly strong paint, it can just be too, out of control. So that's the 1-to-1 mix. What we're doing here is taking our time. This is pure recess shading. If you're not sure what recess shading is, take all this recessing in the armour. I'm simply applying the Seraphim Sepia into the grooves, but I'm not painting it anywhere else. So it's real sort of time, precision, and a lot of control, just making it really neat. It just finishes off the armour perfectly. Our cream coloured armour is now complete, as is the turquoise armour. And once again, we haven't done a single edge highlight. And it looks heavy metal style. It's absolutely fantastic. I am going to do the base next, in the sense of applying the texture paint. I'm going to do Astro Granite, because at this stage my feet are done, and I'm not worried about the rocks. It's all going to tie together. It just means the model's done quicker. And then we'll focus on the colour scheme of the weapons. Once again, matching the Twin Lance colour scheme. Okay, next up, I'm going to cover a little bit on our Flamer weapon that we're doing here. Obviously, we're going to paint the main weapon armour in the next step. But I wanted to showcase, hey, prepping this bit first and the base. So to begin with, for our fire flamethrower weapon, we want to kind of do the little vents first. The colour is Magma Drop Flame. Not thinned down, we're not avoiding edges, just get it into those vent areas, both sides, and let it dry. Now moving on to the base. Like I mentioned, it has had Astro Granite applied to it, and obviously let it fully dry. Once it's fully dry, we're going to shade the Astro Granite, and the colour here I've used is Drakenhof Nightshade. It's very effective against Astro Granite, being a lot darker than Nuln Oil, and with that nice blue tint, it really gives into a nice, either vibrant sort of Astro kind of style turf, or even potentially Moonrock, whatever you want to imagine it as. Now, once it's fully dry, we do need to highlight it, and yes, I know it said there's a no highlight tutorial, but you can forgive me for the base. The colour is Fenrisian Grey, nice and simple, dry brush all over. Now, if you've got flames, and this is not part of the model, like I mentioned at the beginning, it's sculpted with green stuff, but if you have got them, then this is how I painted them. First of all, take Yandon Yellow, and just paint it straight over. Let it completely dry. So the whole flames are covered in Yandon Yellow. Once it's completely dry, take Gryph-hound Orange. We're going to paint from the top to 2/3 of the way down, wash your brush, and just feather out the paint into the Yandon Yellow. So you're now building up yellow to orange, and then obviously the next colour is going to be red. We're showing how heat rises, because in all fire, heat does rise. So once again, Blood Angel's Red from the top, this way halfway down, just to about here. Wash your brush while it's damp, feather it out. So you've got this nice natural transition going. And where smoke burns, it will turn to black. And the colour here is Black Templar. Once again, start at the top, paint to about here, wash your brush, feather it out. Now, it can look a bit stark and a bit odd, so we're going to tie it all together just to make it really nice and neat and give it a nice glow. The colour here is Fugan Orange. This time, we're shading it all over. Now, for the glow on the base, nice and simple. Once I've done the actual main base, this is the Fenrisian Grey applied, I've taken, once again, Yandon Yellow, and I've just painted it all around. Not thinned down, just do it in a circle. Wash your brush when you get to these kind of ends, and just feather out the paint, so you've got a little bit of a blend. Just creates a nice warm glow. Moving on from that, the Tower Commander does have a bit of metal on the base, and we're keeping it really nice and simple here. Iron Warriors as the base coat. Let it fully dry to show a bit of age. I've used Angrax Earthshade to give it a bit of a brown tint. Once it's fully dry, yes, I've applied another cheeky highlight again, but it's only a dry brush. Nice and simple, Stormhost Silver. And that will all be our highlighting done, because when we do these two, there won't be any highlights. We're going to go for a real, no highlight, authentic model. So, take your time, get those done, and then we'll move on to the weapons. Next up, we're finally focusing on the two guns. Now, the armour that we see on the Twin Lance is grey, and it's pretty much, this is the sort of grey we're almost looking for, but it's not quite there. This is going to be our under there, our highlight colour. So, let's talk the mix. It's put in a different pot, but take my word, it is Basilicanum Grey. Now we're going to take one part of this and we're going to thin it down rather heavily. So we're going to take 4 parts of Limy Medium to 1 part of Basilicanum Grey. Essentially, I need a lot of control, especially on a large curved flat area, and I need it thin enough that we get to this very light consistency. Otherwise, on its own, it's a very dark paint, and obviously not thinned down enough on large flat areas, it's going to just look messy, and we don't want that at all. So, applying it, nice and simple. You've got lots of different grooves and recesses. Take it section by section, paint a panel, move around the curvature, and finish the section off, and then move on to the next bit and the next bit. It's not hard, it's just practice. On the venting, now I haven't done it on here, but on the inside of this venting, we're not painting into those actual grooves, but I have painted just the even there, just over that magma drop flame, just kind of show that it was grey, but it's heating up. The other point to note, we've got the actual barrels of our weapons. Now what I've done, it is still that thinned down mix, but I've taken a large blob of it and just created a central, blob. Essentially showing that that's where the shadow is, the actual internal part of the mechanism. It just makes sense. And that's what happens when you apply it too heavily. Just let it dry to begin with. You don't want it to pull. So what I did was I held it in position like that, sort of that verticality and gravity, keeping it in place in the position that I applied. So get those bits done and we'll move on to creating the same like we've done before, where we create a colour, we paint it on, we avoid the edges, leaving this colour intact as our edge highlight. One other thing to notice, if you do get a bit of pooling, so like you see at the back here, it's pulled a little bit heavily, it's not the end of the world, and I'll show you why in the next step. And next up, we're going to finish off all of that grey weapon armour. But to begin with, we're going to go back to our previous mix, that 4 parts of Limy Medium and that 1 part of Basilicanum Grey. Now, I've added it just one more time in certain areas. So around these vents here, I've done it there. Around the venting, that's sort of very small recessing between there. And the same on this side, on this one. And I've added it one more time over the vents where the heat is here. Obviously, again, avoiding the actual main venting sort of cylinders. And then finally on this sort of towel symbol here, where I left it white and essentially I've just done a nice recessed shade into it. Moving on from that, let's focus on the grey. Now, once again, we've got large flat surface areas. We could go with a contrast paint, but I find that the paints such as Basilicanum Grey, they're a bit too dark, and we don't have enough control with the Lamy Medium for these flat armour panels. So we are going to go with classic paints, but we're again going to use the contrast medium to turn them into a contrast paint essentially, but without the splitting where it has that 3-tone effect of base coating, shading and highlighting in one go. So the colours we're going to use, first of all, into a palette, take 1 part of Dawnstone. Now Dawnstone is quite strong, it's also quite dark in comparison to what we've created, so we need to thin it down in grey tone. So with 1 part of Dawnstone, you're going to take 2 parts of Administratum Grey and add 2 to 3 parts of Contrast Medium, essentially turning it into a nice sort of gloopy liquid. And like before, take the paint with a small airbrush and just apply it on. You haven't got to worry about drying lines, just literally onto each surface area and just paint it up to the edge, not including the edge, avoiding all the recess detailing, and your weapons will be complete, matching the box art. Now, there are going to be a couple of areas, and I'm going to point out the best one to show you. For example, this bit here. Now, where I've applied the paint, you've lost the natural recess edge. What I'm going to do next is take that Basilicanum Grey mix again, because I've still got it to hand, and just do a recess shade there. But I wanted to show you just before I apply it, just so you can kind of see the stark effects and how I'm going to correct it. But once you've corrected it, the weapons will be done. Next up, we're going to apply some metallic details. So to begin with, we're going to do silver, which is iron hand steel. And this is going to be for a few select different things. So on our cream coloured armour, you get these little studs. There aren't many on the Commander model, but depending on what town model you do, you will find a few. So those are painted in iron hand steel, and I've done all the things that I'm going to end up painting in red lights, just to contrast against the turquoise colour. So lights up here, you've got the main face, in between these little shoulder pads and on the side here. The other colour to use that you'll see on the new models for the Twin Lance is Brass Scorpion, and this is going to be for little things like this. Now, I've done one here, one there, as you can see, and of course your model, you do have as many as you want, however many you want, but those are the kind of colours you're going to see on the Twin Lance models. So I kind of wanted to recreate that there on my Tower Commander Darkstar and let it dry, and then we will get to contrast painting them. There's not going to be any edge highlights. This is the beauty. This is going to be an absolute zero edge highlight model, base excluded. You can forgive that, as I said. What we're going to do is contrast paint them and then gloss varnish them to give it that nice extra shine. And finally, we're going to finish off those details. So for the silver lights that I was talking about, I've gone with Blood Angels Red, a perfect opposite colour wheel contrast colour to the turquoise blue that we've created. Now, I've also taken Drakenhof Nightshade and I've just applied a small amount of this as a recessed shade to the little studs. So the one here, and there's a little one here on the model too. Once the Blood Angels Red is dry, I've taken Ardcoat. Any gloss varnish will do. I've simply applied it over. I've also done it onto the Brass Scorpion details. It just gives it that shine when light naturally hits. It means we haven't got a highlight. It's nice and cheeky. And talking of no highlights, with that done, our model is complete. It looks absolutely incredible. All we need to do is just finish off the base. I'm going to add a few tufts and then it is done. And the beauty, we haven't applied a single highlight. Forget the base, that's separate. And there we have it. My Tower Commander Darkstar is complete. Now, she may have perished fighting a patriarch, but here I brought her to life, and you can too now. I just love this new colour scheme showcased in the Twin Lances models, and while we don't know whether it's a new sept or just part of their personal lore, the beauty is, with Warhammer, we can make it our own. And it's quite reasonable to imagine that Darkstar herself would look quite like this. And also, I'm the first YouTuber to show this scheme off in a way nobody else actually can, because there is zero edge highlighting done on this model. It's rather insane when you actually think about it, that I can actually make this model parade ready in just a day with ease and precision. So do give this video a like. Please share so others who, like me, are really excited for the new models, and it helps them to get an idea of what colours to use, as well as finding this channel too. And if you haven't already subscribed, then please do. Support this channel, and in return, I'll support you, the awesome Warhammer community. So, until the next time, do look after yourselves. Happy hobbying.